Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Awaken Live Sunday Talk. My name is Garen. Nice to see everyone today. Ta-da! And I just have to take a second and load the browser into the window, so nobody go away. And that way I'll have the browser available here. Just take me a moment. And that should do it, hopefully. There we go. Excellent. So today, Jackie's here. Hi again, Jackie. Nice to see you. Oh, the sunglass emoji. I like that one. Yeah, we've got a mixed bag of weather here. I need my sunglasses on, but it's kind of going between the two. Cold, you know, clouds, a little bit of rain, and back to sun. Typical spring weather around here. So today, after this morning's video, you know, we're going to continue our talk about our state of being, and this is a great place to begin. Now, of course, if there's, it is a live Q&A, so if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I will get to them. And we're going to begin by talking about silence and about what silence really is. And in the video this morning, I gave some of the lyrics from Enigma and Silence Must Be Heard. And it is so true. Noise must be observed. And the noise, of course, is that voice in our heads, that consistent talking, crazed roommate of ours. And yet it is still us. You know, people like to bash ego, and we really have to stop. Because the ego is the vessel by which you experience yourself. It's where the conscious awakening comes from. It's all part and parcel. And quite honestly, it's beautiful. When we talk about silence, we're not really speaking of dead silence within. And even though that will happen in prolonged periods of meditation and over time, initially, what we're talking about is actually hearing the silence, choosing to focus on the silence. And the noise is going to continue for a long time. To this day, I would say, and keep in mind, I've been a regular practitioner of meditation now for over 20 years. And I still spend about 20% of my day, if it was all added up, with that babble going on. Which, granted, is a far cry from what it used to be, but it is a journey. So, when we choose to hear that silence, and choose simply to observe the words, the noise in our own heads, we're making a constant and conscious decision to align ourselves with our higher being. You see, so many people, and Kelly, who's outside actually, we're planting a couple bushes for the neighbors. We've been quite busy in between the videos, painting landscape ties and getting things ready around the strata for spring. And we do all the landscaping maintenance. And we honestly love it. It helps keep us young. But she had a real issue with this whole concept of should and should not. You know, what to do. How do I know I'm doing the right thing? How do I know I'm not going to cause someone harm? That my actions aren't in line with my higher self. And I said, it's really simple. If you have to think about it, if you notice you're mulling and fretting and thinking about it, you're probably better off to stay away from it. What we do naturally emerges from the silence. There is only ever one choice, and I talk about that whether it comes to helping people or making decisions in our own lives. We all have this wonderful inner voice which speaks so softly in the silence to us. And as I said earlier today, the reason it does so is so as to not interfere with that wonderful gift that you have called free will. And we've talked about this, okay? Because, you know, if we, sorry, Jackie says, I'm trying to teach Hubster about should, could, and would. Oh, you know, should, could, and would, I say drop them all. Live in the core of your being with the knowing at all times that you are responsible for your creations, you are responsible for your decisions, but you are not to blame for your decisions. Take the blame off. Keep the responsibility. Responsibility is empowering. Responsibility offers ways forward. Should or should not is all about what is in the past, which we're either guilty about, okay, or we haven't resolved with ourselves. You know, I should have behaved this way. I should have done this. And that is unfair to us because now we have a higher state of consciousness. And looking back at the being we were before that had a lower state of consciousness, we cannot blame ourselves. But we do owe ourselves the responsibility. Why? Because if you try to take that responsibility away from me and put it on someone else, I'm also handing them all my power at the same time. The reason I say stay away from should or should not is because those represent thoughts. Those represent states of mind. Myself personally, I have come to the point where I act from the silence. There is never a decision as to what direction to go. There's simply a natural outpouring of action in relation to what life is bringing me. And yes, sometimes those actions don't work out in the way that I would have thought they would. But as I've said before, and as the Bhagavad Gita reminds us over and over again, Om Tat Sat. Not only are we actually not the doer, but we have no control over the outcome. We all live with a silent sentence behind every plan we make for the future, and that sentence is, but by the grace of God. I like that, Jackie. He still sleeps. I am his leader. You know, I'll tell you a funny little story. We have it's called a red apple. It's kind of like a Kmart or a Kresge's or a cheaper version of Target, and they have, you know, the usual sort of store stuff. But what we really like is the people who work there. They have some really nice people in our small town here, and when we go in there, it doesn't matter. I throw open both the doors and I step in and I yell in my deepest, loudest voice, "People of Earth, your leader has returned. It's okay not to kneel today, but make sure you come and pay penance." And of course, the first time I did this to Kelly, she had no clue what was going to happen. And she can be embarrassed. I cannot be embarrassed. There's nothing left to embarrass anymore. I've already embarrassed myself right to death. And that reminds you of that. Do you have a little flag or a patch or a pin? I have a tattoo. So when we're talking about this silence, when we're talking about this place pregnant with all possibilities, that's really the reason why we don't want to come from a place of thought. And we get confused by that. A lot of people say, well, how can I accomplish anything if I don't think about it first? And I would say, listen, the ego is great once the decision has been made. It'll line everything up. The ego will make all the procedures and processes and handle all the physical details. That's what it's great for. But in the decision-making process, we have to learn to listen to the silent space, the stillness within us. And in that space, outside of thought, all possibilities exist. The outside the box thinking comes from that space. You know, thinking beyond thought comes from that space. And then the natural course of action simply bubbles up and we take it. And we don't know the results. We never did. As I said, you know, but by the grace of God go I. In other words, none of us know whether or not tomorrow is going to come. None of us know whether the plans I've made tomorrow, next week, this afternoon will ever manifest, or will I still be manifest here? And a lot of people worry about that. A lot of people, you know, fret about what's coming. A perceived future based out of fear. Unreal, not manifested. And yet they live from that space, and that place is not a place of silence. That is a place of paying attention to the noise instead of just observing it. Observe those thoughts in your head like clouds passing by on a blue sky, and understand that that blue sky, that canvas, that is your consciousness. All of it. That upon which everything is manifest. It's not external to you. I know it seems external and it feels external, and when someone pokes you with a pin, you know, you couldn't convince yourself that it wasn't external. But everything that's happening is happening within your being. Everything that is creative, everything that is destructive, everything that is part and parcel of your evolution and growth and journey here on this planet happens within you. This is the wholeness of your being that you were born into, complete, perfect, still, and prepared, armed with all the tools you needed to have the life you chose, to live your life in such a way as to grow and evolve. And our limited selves have a hard time keeping still about it. And we're going to talk about stillness next. You know, from silence, we see stillness coming out of the silence, and we see stillness leading to silence. And all of these words are interrelated that we're going to be talking about today. And again, if there's any questions, please don't be afraid to ask. Stillness, that still place, it actually exists within us. It's already there, that stillness. And you can find it by simply closing your eyes and paying attention to what I would call the body aliveness of your being. The feeling of life itself. You will notice that it's still. It's alive. You can tell. There's a feeling to it. And you can't put it into words. Words will fail. But it is a pregnant stillness, full of potential. You can sense the energy of it, the wave of the energy. That is the place of stillness within us. What does stillness really mean? Stillness means observing. Stillness means, even in our own minds, not allowing ourselves to be taken in by ourselves. And we do this to ourselves all the time. I'm not worthy. I don't look good enough. I've gained too much weight. I'm getting old. I'm getting gray. I'm losing my hair. The list goes on and on and on. And with each of those things, we would whip ourselves in some way. And that's literally what we're doing when we put out these negative thoughts. And that's why our body responds quite quickly with negative feelings. It says, wait a minute, you're putting out a really bad vibe here I don't want to be part of. Alarm bell. Stillness is the absence of all those things that we would consider to be wrong. And it's all about your perceptions. It's all about a state of mind, a state of being, about an acceptance of what is right now. Because as I said before, many times and earlier this morning, it is sheer lunacy to push up against what is. If it's already manifest, if you've already brought it into your creation consciously or unconsciously, there is a lesson there for you still. That is the beauty of our creation. That is the beauty of this universe. It is so adaptive, so magnificently transformational, so fluid, that it automatically corrects that which you would perceive as a mistake and puts a diamond right back in there for you. Yeah, it's nice to be past those thoughts. So many people still live from that place. I still find Kelly living from that place sometimes, feeling that she's somehow not worthy enough or not good enough or not capable enough. In that place of stillness, understanding that what is, we simply allow it to be and now make a new choice, not judgment. And that's another good word for stillness, is a total lack of judgment. Not being willing to judge your opinion of what someone else thinks. Not being willing to judge the day you wake up to. You know, start from that point. Start from giving up your judgments on anything. And boy, they're tricky. You're going to see them everywhere. And it even begins with things like food. You know, I don't like chocolate-covered grasshoppers. And I would say try one. You're going to be pleasantly surprised. And that's a simple example of a judgment. But, you know, that's as simple as judgments get. It's a miserable day outside. Why? Because it's raining. Yeah, but that water is life-giving. Letting go of judgments. That is another part and synonymous with finding that stillness within us. That stillness, that silence, that leads to another word that represents the same things again, and that is, yes, judging is very difficult to get over. Judging ourselves first and foremost, and then judging others for what we identify with in them. And man, that's the hard part. You know, Jackie, you hit the nail right on the head. You know, we're going to take a little segue here and talk about judgment for a minute, because that's a very good point, okay? When we judge, what we're honestly really doing, and man, do I struggle with this one myself, but I have come to see it as true. We are actually judging something that we have a problem with. We see a mirror reflection within them of a mirror of us, and we don't like it. I know. Kelly says, what did I miss? Nothing, honey. We just got finished talking about you. Remind me to start the replay now. So in our judging, we are actually judging is actually a recognition when it comes to others. And that recognition sometimes is subconscious, but that means that there are lingering parts of ourselves that we have to look at even closer. And I fall victim to that too. I do. Not as much anymore, but I do. In my retrospection, and we're going to talk about retrospection at the end of this, I often see it after the fact and then kind of add it to the to work on list. And it's okay to have one of those. We all do have one. And it's not really work, it's growth, it's evolution, it's living. Centered, stillness, silence, all evolve around surrendering. All of them. They all evolve around surrendering to the present moment, surrendering to what is right now, not trying to use this moment as a vehicle to get somewhere, i.e. to a place I'll be happy, but to allow yourself to accept happiness and joy as a state of being right here in this moment. Will it ever stop? You know, I have sat in audience with the Dalai Lama and with various other gurus and spiritual figures, and I have come to the conclusion that every single one of them still possess a little bit of it. It won't go away. What goes away is your inability to put it aside. Let's put this that way. When the consciousness comes up enough, you will see the judgment in your head, and you will realize the judgment is not correct and not valid anymore. And you will let go of attaching to that judgment. You will not grow that judgment. You will not add any additional thoughts to it. You will simply see the thought, and it will be as a cloud passing by. You will pay it no attention. That's the best way of saying it. The egoic voice in the head never, ever, ever, ever goes away. It doesn't. It has value. It's like our best friend, a good dog. If the dog is not trained, if the dog is allowed to run loose, the dog does incredible damage. But when the dog is trained, the dog will stay silent, and it will only bark or exercise its voice upon necessity, upon need. It drops into a background murmur, let's put it that way. That's another good way of putting it. And literally you will see the judgment, and you will let go of the judgment. You'll understand that the majority of your being has gone beyond that. And the little bits that are left over, those little resonant energy flakes of you that still have that inclination, will get less and less and less. But I have yet to see them disappear totally in anyone that I have met yet. In our surrendering, what we're really doing is allowing, yeah, exactly, as with watching the thoughts flow by and not attaching to them. You know, and I get Kelly to work on this when she falls into this. You know, okay, well, what was the originating thought that started the train? You know, what was the locomotive thought that you had to add another car to and add another car to, instead of just watching that locomotive just sail right on by? And this is what we do. And as Kelly says, it is a very long train sometimes. You can. And we get very lost in this, and that's when we fall back into unconsciousness. And realistically, you know, after spending our lifetime asleep, or a great deal of our time asleep, waking up is kind of like a dolphin coming in and out of the water, okay? You're going to come up, and you're going to be highly conscious and aware, and then you're going to get triggered by something, some old memory or some old resonant energy within you, or some, you know, thing that you haven't quite worked through yet, and that dolphin of your consciousness is going to go back under the water, right? Go back asleep, and then it's going to come back up into the light again. And when this first started happening, and it is happening with Kelly, she tends to spend a little too much time under the water still. But she would get frustrated with herself. Okay, I'm awake. Oh, I fell asleep. You know, it happens. It's part of the fun. It's part of the journey. And the reason why it won't totally disappear is you need to still stay grounded here. You know, I have seen rishis and fakirs in India who've taken it too far, and they are no longer of this earth to the point that they have to be cared for 24/7. I met a guy who hadn't eaten, used the washroom, showered, shaved, moved for about 2 years from what everyone in town told me, and he was being looked after by the town. Why? Because he was in a state of such deep and profound meditation that his body was literally wasting away, and he was not present. And that's an extreme case. But this is why we need that interface. That ego is an interface. It is literally an artificial intelligence, the sum of all we've ever experienced, the sum of all we've ever seen, the sum of everything we've ever done, everything we felt about it, talked about it, wanted to be, didn't want to be, all our hopes, dreams, fears, everything, that magnificent experience of our entire lives is the hard drive of ego. And it is so packed with information and knowledge that, of course, it becomes self-aware, and we develop that sense of I. It's not a bad thing. It's not an enemy. It's just a misconception. You're viewing yourself as smaller than you are, when in fact, you're magnificent. You are a powerful spiritual being, having a human experience. And it's not a one-way ticket. You have open season pass. You know, those who would pass from our sight and our vision, our from standing in front of us and cross over to the other side, I mean, that is graduation. That means it doesn't matter whether it's 1 hour on this earth or 100 years on this earth. That means mission fulfilled. That which you came here to do is done. There are no deaths that happen at the wrong time. That is a fallacy. Don't buy it for a moment that anything in our magnificent universe that is part and parcel of a deity of love and pure consciousness. Don't ever think that anything could ever happen by accident. Oops. It's impossible. Every moment of our being, every bit of our destiny is already assured. That there is no place that we need to worry about getting to. You know, I tried the external journey. I mean, it wasn't enough for me to you know, go on a road trip or walk across the country. I had to walk continents. I had to go into the Himalayas for 3 years. I had to chase gurus in caves full of cobras and sit at doors of ashrams in the heat. Why? Because there was way too much ego, way too much of Garen that had to be stripped away. And it was only then that I found that I could have stayed still in one place and done it all right there. Would have been a lot cheaper, but probably not as fun. And certainly I met wonderful people along the way to help. And that's one of the gifts of our technology. Now we can reach out and find help from half a world today. Some of the people that I talk to are, you know, 5, 6, 7, 10,000 miles from here. And yet we can communicate face to face. We can look into each other's eyes and see the oneness of our beings across that space and transcend it. And if that isn't a miracle, you know, I would say that life is a miracle. It is a non-stop miracle. There are no miracles because it's all one giant miracle. How do we get into that space? How do we get into that space of silence, that space of stillness, that space of centered surrender of being? one of the ways I use and have used quite successfully in the past is to literally envision the waves on the ocean. Maybe you're standing on the shore, and I want you to allow the waves to work in harmony with your breathing, so that when you expel your breath, the waves roll and crash onto the shore and break apart and dispel into the sand. And when you breathe in, that water is pulled back off the beach and begins to, yes, I can stop wanting to, yeah, exactly. And we'll talk about that in a minute. As you inhale, that water comes back off the beach, and there's a pause, and as you exhale, the next set of waves come crashing in. And as you're doing that, realize that you are not the one who's breathing. Literally, creation is breathing you. You can grab conscious control of your breath because you have free will, but you can't grab conscious control of it for long. Go ahead and try and hold your breath. See how long you can go away before you start breathing again. As you are breathing in conjunction with this feeling inside of you and the vision in your head of these waves, expand now. Allow yourself to expand until you understand that indeed all of life, all of creation is being breathed out. This expansion into the universe. The breath of consciousness itself, in an exhalation that expands billions of years, and then an inhalation of everything, all matter, all being. And allow yourself to experience this, and this can help bring that stillness, help return you to that place. I even allow the soft sound of the water crashing at a distance to be in my mind. And it is a wonderful, helpful focusing point. Ah, Cindy, have you been hiding or are you late again? You know, the last time we were talking, our good friend Sharon wanted to comment, and she couldn't, and she was frustrated because she wanted to get in on the conversation and she couldn't get in on it. Yeah, we go to sleep to the sound of the waves, along with a slow chanting of Om and a Tibetan bowl that's tuned to that Om as well. And it's quite beautiful, actually. It really does make for a peaceful sleep. I want to return to what Jackie had said, though, and ask maybe if you wanted to clarify that a little bit, Jackie, when you said you can stop wanting to disappear. Are you talking about like disappearing from Earth, or just disappearing from a sleeping society, for example? Because I understand both of them, you know. I mean, I certainly don't mind talking about it. If any of you haven't figured out yet, I'm about the most transparent human being you've ever met. And I hope you've met more just like me. I will tell you anything. It's okay. It's all right. You know, I tried to take my own life once a number of years ago. I did. And in my usual epic way, you know, I had decided I was going to climb onto this plateau at about 5,000 feet and take enough poorly graded street heroin from a little Asian village that I was in that should have killed an ox. And I did so because there was too much of that depression. When I first woke up, of course, you don't wake up all the way. You just wake up enough to understand that something's horribly wrong all of a sudden. And I looked around me and I allowed myself to become very depressed. Depressed to the point where I didn't want to live anymore. And dangerously enough, since I knew that suicide and hell and all those other things were a load of crap, the option to take my own life and start again looked really good. Well, turns out, obviously, the Sea of Consciousness, my higher being, had greater things in store for me. Or, I hadn't taken enough of the whip on the back yet. And I lay out there, unconscious, for days near death, but didn't die. And woke up. And felt totally different about things. I understand hiding. I understand hiding from people. I really do. And I would say, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not really hiding. Perhaps maybe the right, and please correct me, Jackie, if I'm wrong on this, okay? But I'll tell you my experience. I can handle a certain amount of time in and out amongst the sleeping masses before the vibrational states of those people begin to afflict me. My defenses, my own vibrational state can only hold on for so long. So I will be out there sometimes for 4 hours or 3 hours or 5 hours, and depending on the circumstances, and then I need to remove myself. I need to come back to my holy place. I need to come back to my sanctuary. I need to refocus, come back to stillness, come back to the center again. Now, if I'm with people who are open and we can have deep conversation and talk beyond the sleeping subjects of our modern day world, then that I can stay in all day. And I love it. But I do come back here and hide. Not hide, really. Just protect my being. Give my being the sanctity of its own space in order for it to become stable again, for the energy levels to come back into balance. Thank you, Cindy. I'm glad I woke up too. Or I haven't, and I'm in purgatory. I'm doing penance. I've always told my wife that if she ever dies on me, I'm going back to a cave on a mountain. I'll be the crazy hermit living up under the mountain that, people have to come and visit me if they want any more of my wisdom, if that's what it is. Yeah, I understand feeling drained. And, we've talked about our energy states. And go take a look at the YouTube video list on the Awaken the World YouTube page. There's, I think, 92 of them there now. And there's a couple that talk about energy. But we're going to discuss this right now for a few minutes. When we are out amongst others, and you may be leaning towards being an empath. And what that really means these days, we've come to understand scientifically, is there's actually a nodal point in your brain that has a collection of specialized brain cells that are able to mirror what we see in others or feel in others. And that's what gives us the ability to have compassion. And what scientists believe is that empaths, people who are more susceptible to the energy frequencies of others, the vibrations of others, may have more of these specialized cells. Now, that doesn't really matter because we're talking in the physical realm. That's the manifestation. What we're talking in the realm of consciousness, in spirit, is that you are more sensitive to the vibratory states of others, and this will grow. As I said to Kelly, and she will affirm for anyone who asks her directly anything about it, she doesn't need to talk to me. She doesn't. Before she said it, it's already there. I've had some interactions with a few of you half a world away in the recent days, and I felt those people too. The connection is beyond time and space, and that connection will grow in you, Jackie. But initially, as things are growing, no, I didn't say I didn't need to talk to you. I said you didn't need to talk to me. Nice of you to confuse that, hey? Yeah, woman's prerogative, I know. So what you really need to do, Jackie, is, you know, as you're growing in awareness, you're becoming more vibrationally sensitive. We all do. And if we're unaware of what's happening, or we don't take steps to, and protect isn't the right word, because, and shield is not the right word either, because we can protect and shield. We can put up walls, but you know what happens when we put up walls? We shut down other people. You know, it's not a protective shield that we put up. What we're doing is we're manifesting our own energy field and consciously choosing that vibration. And you can work on this a little bit at a time. And don't feel bad coming back out of people, out of that vibrational, that sleeping vibrational state. And unfortunately, in most people's lives, it's predominantly negative. And yeah, it can impact you quite heavily. It would drain Kelly dry, and she wouldn't understand why she was being sucked dry by the negativity. It's like, honey, it is clearly vibrational. You're being leached out of, and other people in their negative states feel low vibration. And if you walk in with a higher vibrational state, people unintentionally will suck the life force right out of you. Jackie, I would love to have a video chat with you. Send us a message via Messenger and we'll queue it up for next week. Okay? Both Kelly and I, or just me, we're both here, and we love to talk with you and everyone. We really do. So this is the crux of it that we keep coming back to. Protect your being. Protect that energy space. You know, you serve others best when you are in your best state. And we do have to be aware that we're not overusing the hiding space. And I've been prone to do that. Where it's like, okay, you know, I've been back in my space now for a day. I haven't seen or talked to another human being. I've sat out in my backyard in nature, had some conversations with the plants and birds, and I'm feeling really good, and I'm feeling really high energy. And then I look around me and say, well, why ruin it? But I know in the act of going out into the world that I will be able to offer that higher energy state to others, even if it's only for a short period of time. Do I charge? No, Jackie. I never charge for anything. I don't believe in it. You know, the universe has got my back. It's got your back too. It's got all our backs. Whatever happens to us, to me in this life, is really inconsequential to me anymore. I know and have experienced enough now that there's no more worry, no more fear, no more sense that money has to rule my life. We don't live an expensive life, but we live. And for that I am grateful. And to serve you is reward enough. It really is. So I look forward to that. I really do. Make sure you do message us. So we are indeed these powerful beings, and we come into our own. And when your energy levels are up, yes, take your raised consciousness, take your raised vibration and spread it. But when you feel drained, as a warrior fighting battle, or as a worker caring for others, you pull yourself out and take your rest. Get your sustenance. Heal yourself. Look after your vibrational state of being. And in that, you then can serve others and be all that you want to be. And again, it all comes down to choice. So we come to the end of what I have to say today. I apologize for the last few minutes, but I really don't believe I'm going past what flows naturally from me. And I feel the flow is lessening. That's why, if you're interested, why I tend to end things rather abruptly, is I go as long as there's a flow coming out. And what I actually do after is I go back and I watch my own video. And, you know, some people, I remember our son came downstairs, he goes, wow, watching your own video. It's like, no, I don't remember what I said. I try to get myself out of the way and just let it flow from within without thought. And there's no conscious memory of it available. And sometimes I kind of crack myself up. I gotta admit. And other times I wonder about myself. It's really strange watching yourself on a video. It just is. And a few times I've even taught myself a few things. So I guess that's all good. I wish to all of you, from the depths of my being, to realize what wonderfully powerful spiritual beings you are. To, in every moment of every day, see beyond your limited self. See the forest as you realize you're the tree. You know, see both views at the same time. Marvel at the magnificence of our existence. Take joy in the eternal growth and eternal adventure, and in the truth that no harm can ever come to you. No harm. Much love and namaste from my heart to yours. Have a wonderful day, and we look forward to engaging with you all so much more next week. And Jackie, drop us a line. Look forward to seeing you. Take care.